Hello everyone, it's Theme Avenue, I'm Eric. Today, I'm ranking the top 25 most intense roller coasters I've ridden. This list was suggested by Charged on PC because he won the Theme Park Avenue Trivia Challenge, and unfortunately, I think this video might be a disappointment as the main request because I don't really classify intensity as the same thing a lot of people do. Some think it's the one that exerts the most force in a way, and yes, I kind of agree, but I think Airtime can be intense. Overall, this is going to be the 25 rides I think are the biggest adrenaline rushes. The ones that throw you in the most directions, the ones that by the end you're like, wow, what just happened? And it's going to be a bit weird and inconsistent, but I'll try my best. First, we have an honorable mention, The Beast, second half particularly. The second half of The Beast builds up so much speed and you're on a weird sort of angle, banked to the left, and once you enter the tunnel, the amount of speed you'd built up is just insane. It's incredibly frightening, and this part of the ride definitely deserves a mention. Number 25 is Sky Rush. One many consider intense, but I think outside of the first turn after the drop, it has its forces and all, but the airtime is not ejector. It's definitely floater in my opinion. Still very good, but I don't think it's quite as intense as some say, though intense enough to be top 25. Number 24 is X2. Disorienting, sure. Intense, I don't know. I definitely give credit that the first drop and some of the turns are definitely forceful and crazy, but a part of it is definitely meandering, and it's kind of the reason why The Beast did not make the list, so that's why X2 is not any higher. Number 23 is Batwing at Six Flags America. Very underrated ride. The Helix and Vekoma vertical loop are particularly intense moments, and there are other parts, yes, a little meandering, but these parts are more intense than the most parts on X2, honestly, so definitely deserved a spot on the list. Number 22 is Max Force at Six Flags Great America. The main thing here is the launch. That said, the Heartline roll in the middle of the ride is the fastest inversion in the world, and you can feel that. So those two moments stand out, and they definitely push you into your seat. Number 21 is Storm Runner at Hershey Park. This one's launch is a bit less powerful, sure, compared to Max Force, but the flying snake dive absolutely yanks you over the side, no matter what roar you're in, and that's why it deserves a spot for sure. Number 20 is Accelerator at Knott's Berry Farm. The launch being more powerful than both of the previous rides I named in my opinion is the reason why this ranks on the list. That said, I should point out that the turns following actually have a pretty good amount of speed too, but that launch really is the star. Number 19 is Banshee, the first of many B&M inverse to be on this list. Banshee has its slow-ish moments, but there are so many really forceful moments that come close to the ground, and with the exception of the somewhat slow in Heartline roll at the end, that's the one thing, but the rest of it, absolutely phenomenal. Forceful the whole way through. Number 18 is Raptor. Definitely more intense, especially for that final Helix. That Helix gives some of the craziest foot numbness of any B&M invert, but the ride outside of that has plenty of intense moments as well, from the vertical loop to the Cobra roll. Number 17 is Afterburn at Carowinds. One many consider the most intense B&M invert, and it's up there. Just a bit higher than Raptor, but it's been a while since I rode it, so there's not really a whole lot to say. Number 16 is Outlaw Run. This is one of the craziest RMCs in terms of the pacing. You fly through elements, and it definitely does feel like you're riding a horse as an outlaw or whatever they're trying to go for with the theme, but I just feel that the airtime moments are pure ejector, the ride's pacing never wavers, and the final inversions, they are just the icing on the cake. Definitely one of the most intense RMCs. Number 15 is Mystic Timbers, on here for a very similar reason as Outlaw Run. This year, when I rode Mystic Timbers, I was really wondering how anyone could call it overrated if they rode it this year. Its pacing is pretty much unrivaled. It is insanely fast, given that it actually only goes 53 miles per hour or so. I was blown away. The airtime moments, pure ejector the whole way through. It feels like a long ride, unlike what many have said in my opinion, and I just felt that the pacing of this one and the forces exerted made it feel like one of the most intense wooden roller coasters, period. Number 14 is Tatsu at Six Flags Magic Mountain. The pretzel loop is the reason this is on here. There are other moments of intensity for sure. It's forceful pretty much the whole time, but more parts are graceful. I would say if everything was as intense as the pretzel loop, this would be number 1. That one inversion is one of the craziest out there. Number 13 is Batman the Ride. These inverts have a better pacing than most that I've already named. And even though they are shorter and more compact, that means they're snappier. Every transition completely throws you in a new direction, and it's definitely one of the most mind-blowing rides in terms of intensity, and I'm really glad there's clones of this layout. Number 12 is Steel Vengeance. Steel Vengeance is intense, just gotta say that. It's not just airtime, and some of the airtime, especially that finale, is crazy. You get thrown, and then you're back in your seat, then you get thrown again after being in for a split second, and that's intensity as far as I'm concerned. The parts where you're weaving in and out of the structure are especially strong in terms of forces, so it absolutely earned a spot in the list. Number 11 is Titan at Six Flags Over Texas, one that many know for being intense, and outside of the first drop and the mid-course brake run, this thing's speed can be felt. It's a lot of turns, not a ton of airtime moments, and that means it was built to be high up on a list like this, and that's why it earned a pretty good spot. Number 10 is Kumba. Kumba, once again, its pacing just does not stop, even with a brake run. Nothing slows down. Everything from the corkscrews to the loop to the cobra roll. That does mean the ride is a little rough, but I think it is phenomenal for intensity and pacing, and I hear some say it's forceless these days, but I can't personally agree. Number 9 is Intimidator 305. Full disclosure, I haven't been on this one in like 6 years, but I do remember it being not quite as intense as the number 1 intense coaster in the world like a lot have said it is. It's up there. Not a whole lot to say about it though. That first turn after the drop is probably the most intense moment on any roller coaster, but there's a lot of somewhat weaker moments after that. That said, it is the second most intense Giga Coaster. Number 8 is Top Thrill Dragster. I know it's closed, but I had to give it a mention because that launch is terrifying. You are pushed into your seat in under 2 seconds. The acceleration of this thing is insane, and it is one of the greatest moments on any roller coaster ever, and that is mainly for intensity. Number 7 is Monsu, the most intense of the B&M inverts. This one, particularly the Batwing, that's the really main moment that stands out as absolutely being relentless and intense. That said, even with the brake run, just like Kumba, this thing does not stop. It doesn't give the foot numbness, so it's less uncomfortable compared to some of the Batman the rides, but it still has the same speed and pacing, and that's why it's one of the best inverts out there by far. Number 6 is Hulk at Islands of Adventure. Right from that launch, this thing is insane. The forces exerted, from the Cobra roll to the Zero-G roll, everything about it, it is a truly frightening ride. And the music adds to the crazy adventurous feel of it. I know it doesn't technically add to the intensity, but I wanted to mention that. And Hulk is one of the most intense roller coasters out there, without a doubt. Number 5 is Millennium Force. Hoo boy, this is a crazy one I'm sure for most, but I don't know. From the first drop to that overbanked, to the turn into the tunnel, to the Forbidden Frontier circling part with a sort of helix, to the speed hill absolutely throwing you out of your seat to the other overbanks, I think this ride has a lot of intense moments. The main thing that stands out is how long and sustained the forces are. Right from the first drop to that tunnel, leading up to the airtime hill, you are getting pushed back into your seat, and I promise you, this is the closest I've ever come to graying out on a ride. Millennium Force definitely earned a spot because of that. Number 4 is Maverick. Maverick at Cedar Point is the most intense roller coaster there because of its snappy transitions. Millennium Force doesn't quite have that due to the fact that it goes 93 miles per hour. Maverick is able to pull that off with 70, and as a result, some parts feel like 90 miles per hour. The tunnel launch is probably the highlight, with that turn being one of the most whippy of any roller coaster ever, so it earned a top 5 spot without a doubt. Number 3 is Velocicoaster, basically Maverick's new and improved counterpart. This one has more intense moments. It feels similar in length, so it doesn't have more technically, but it has better ones. I just think the main thing that stands out is the inversions. Far more intense than Maverick's, especially the Mosasaurus roll. Number 2 is Iron Gwazi, my favorite roller coaster. The death roll is the standout here. It is the best inversion I've ever experienced, and everything after that, the pacing never wavers, and the fact that there's no brake run like on Steel Vengeance means that ride experience right to the end is absolute perfection, and it easily earned a high spot in this list. That said, the number one most intense roller coaster I've ridden is King Dakar. The launch builds up speed slower than Dragster, but it seems to build up a whole lot more. You are pushed back into your seat in a way no other roller coaster is able to. And it does not stop. And even though the ride is not long, it feels well over a minute in length. It is the most out-of-body experience of any roller coaster, and for me, that means it's definitely qualified to be considered the most intense roller coaster I've ridden. So thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I know it's kind of weird to hear a list of most intense roller coasters from someone who's never grayed out on one, so maybe I don't really know what intensity is supposed to be. But I very much love all of these. Subscribe for more theme park content, and like this video if you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.